Unity principle number 4. I pray and I meditate. I was recently in a class with a group of very creative women. One is a minister out at Unity of Flagstaff, Arizona. And I joked with her about how I'm going to hire her to title my talks to give them a little bit more oomph and creativity. And so today, this talk has actually morphed into what I would call, I had a prayer. I realize that's a little bit already taken. But that's really what I want to share with you this morning, is that I had a dream. I had a dream. And I am passionate about sharing this dream with you because, number one, I never remember my dreams, even though they tell us that all of us dream all the time. I very seldom remember my dreams, and I remember this one. And this dream significantly relates to my work with you, to the class that I was involved in this past week, and the lesson today. So let's begin with my work with you. I began being with you as your senior interim/bridge minister January of this year. And it might feel like I'm part-time, but I'm actually full-time. I have a full-time focus on Unity of the Keys, even though you only see me on a part-time basis. And so I was in the Publix store, which I love in Florida. We don't have those in Arkansas. And I was reminded of one of my favorite things, and that's a BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Who here loves BOGO? Buy one, get one free. So what I am for you as a Unity minister is buy one, get one free. Because what I worked with the board in doing is being paid as a part-time minister and giving you my full-time focus. So you're buying one and you get the other half free. And I consider it a win-win situation because I get to work with my favorite Unity community in the entire world. And the church has an opportunity to have some breathing room in finances for a while. And so it works for both of us as long as it works for both of us. And we're figuring that out, all of us. You are adapting, I'm adapting. I lose my mic. It's a hybrid situation, for I still live full-time in Arkansas, which is where I intend to remain. And so I've never done this before, serving a community primarily via Zoom and coming in and seeing you on an average about once a month. And so it's new and it's different, and we're figuring it out together. And like all ministers who are serving every community, especially during and following the COVID, trying to figure out how can I best serve the spiritual needs of my community. And continuing to ask myself that question, the question to that puzzle, how can I best serve, primarily from a distance, the spiritual needs of this vibrant community? And so let's just put a pin in that for now. We're just going to stick that over here. Now, the class that we completed this week was one of Unity's spiritual education and enrichment classes, SEE class, called Self-Care. It was a 5-week class, 10 hours. We've taught many of them, been in many of them. Actually, I figured it out the other day. I've taken about 40 Unity classes. You have to take 25 before you become a licensed Unity teacher, then you have to take another 12, and whatever. It comes out to about 40. So this class was dynamic. We had 8 regular members of the class, 3 from this church community, as well as some folks that dropped in from time to time, and then we had 5 from across the United States. And this was entirely on Zoom. 5 weeks entirely on Zoom. And I was so pleased that the members of our community who are on their spiritual path of awareness and development, as well as those who are potentially working on licensed Unity teacher, got to meet other people in Arizona, in New Jersey, in Missouri, in Kansas, who are also working towards the same thing. So class was Wednesday night. I flew in here Wednesday morning, leaving the house in Tampa about 6:15, flew in. Carolyn took me to my lodging, threw the luggage in, ran to the church for a couple things, ran to the grocery store, went back, unpacked, got ready for class. As we checked into class, so many of the members said that they were sad the class was over and that they didn't feel complete with this group of people. No, I'm wise enough to know it had nothing to do with me. It had to do with their connections with one another that they made exclusively through Zoom. These were dynamic, loving, giving, compassionate. It turned out we were all women who loved and supported each other, who came up with creative ideas, who shared. There was no sense of protectiveness or right or wrong or ego. It was an awesome group who made the decision they were going to stay connected in the future and share self-care ideas. It was a powerful, powerful group. And I realized that evening, Wednesday evening, that they kind of reminded me of little cupids. For every time they would speak to another member of the group, it was like there was an arrow, a love arrow that was being shot in that direction. And the recipient would receive it, and it would be absorbed into them, and it would dissolve as light and love and just acknowledge the divinity in the other person. That's how beautiful it was. Their support of one another. And that brings me to my dream. So I had a dream that night that I was at an archery field, and I used to do archery with my father many, many, many years ago when I lived in Indiana. And so I was at an archery field, and there was a large round target. You know, it's made of very thick straw and then covered in a coarse white fabric, or fabric painted white with red design on it for the archers to practice. And so I was to the side watching the archers, and everyone was hitting the target. Everyone was hitting the target. They were hitting the target so hard that the arrows went all the way through the target. The point was on the other side. Very difficult to get back out of the target. Now, I'm like most of you. You see a problem, you want to be helpful, don't you? We all want to fix the problem. We want to resolve the issue. And so somehow I found in my pocket this tool. I think it's called a file. I should have asked Keith before I got up here. It has a handle and a long rectangular, very hard steel or something. This one had lines on it. I know Denny's got some out in the workshop. So I took that when they were through, everyone was through shooting, and in my dream, I took that behind the target, held it against the point, took a hammer, and slammed those arrows out so everyone could retrieve their arrows. How wonderfully helpful of me to do that. So when I woke in the morning, I was thinking about this dream. I thought, what does it mean? What does it mean metaphysically? What does it mean behind the obvious, beyond the physical? And then I remembered how the previous night I had seen the members of the class as being little cupids, shooting these arrows that would brightly light up and explode with love. And I thought, these aren't the same arrows. These are piercing the target. And I realized that my interpretation of this is that we are all, always shooting arrows into our environment, into the ethers, into the world, with our thoughts, with our words, with our actions. We're even shooting arrows at ourselves, and that's got to be a tricky thing to do. We shoot arrows into our own psyches when we are so judgmental and hateful sometimes towards ourselves. When those arrows are not grounded in the understanding of love and compassion and wisdom. And that's part of the human condition that we all struggle with. We all want to be grounded in love, and we're human, and our thoughts just keep going. And we have thoughts. We have thoughts about that group of people, or that country, or that person, or ourselves that are not kind. And those are the arrows that we shoot out. And when we recognize we're doing it, we can do our best to mend that situation, to heal our own psyche and heart that we've damaged. If we've hurt another, we do our best to heal that relationship. And then I ask myself, is that my job to give people back their arrows? As a spiritual leader, is that how I can best serve you? No. I need to take care of my own arrows. Each one of us are responsible for the arrows that we shoot into the world, whether they're from Cupid or they're grounded from fear and ego and separation. And we are right and everybody else is wrong and it should be this way and that way, and why is that group doing that? That's our own individual responsibility, whether it's in our families, whether it's in our work group, in the world. And that my role here is to provide teachings of the unity principles, that we get steeped in knowing what is ours to do and how we can find our center so that we're always coming from that space of love. Just as Nancy so beautifully described in that meditation, how we turn within. We find the essence of truth, the essence of oneness. And only kindness comes from that space. Only a sense of harmony comes from that space. We're going through transition here as a church, so is every other church in the world. And there's always transition of some kind. And so that's not something that we can grab a hold of as an excuse of not being kind to one another. We're always going through transition. Always. It's called growth. And that's awesome. And that's awesome. And so this morning we are looking at our fourth unity principle. I pray and I meditate. For we are people of prayer. And we believe that through prayer we have the power to increase our awareness of God presence through prayer and meditation. That through prayer, we can open up our heart and our mind to God, to the God within, to the Godness all around us. God is all that is. And through prayer, we have access to this divine wisdom and this divine love. So what is prayer? Well, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of the Unity Movement, in the Revealing Word, I'm going to just change one word. He uses man a lot. It was just how it was done at the time. We'll change that today. Prayer is communion between God and all people. This communion takes place in the innermost part of our being. Innermost part of our being is where this communion takes place. Prayer is the most highly accelerated mind action known to men and women. It steps up mental action until our consciousness synchronizes with Christ's mind. It is the language of spirituality. Prayer is the language of spirituality. It is more than supplication. It is an affirmation of truth that eternally exist. It is an affirmation of truth that eternally exists. And that's where we focus our attention in unity, is through affirmative prayer. That's why in unity churches across the world, when they receive the prayer request, they're usually typed up and they get the person's name, sometimes just the first name, not the last name. And regardless of what that person has put on the piece of paper, it has been changed in the mind of the person documenting it to the truth behind the need. So let's say I'm writing a prayer request and I say, Daybree, I was in an automobile accident. I have to have surgery on this knee. And I put that prayer in the prayer chest. The prayer chest is going to say, Daybree, wholeness. That's what they're holding for. The less they know, actually, about what happened to me, the better. The more they can clear their mind and their heart and focus on wholeness. Or Daybree, I'm in a financial mess, going to lose the house. They've already repossessed the car. I don't know how I'm going to get groceries next week. I need $1,000. What the prayer team holds is Daybree, abundance, abundantly blessed. That's the truth behind the need. That's the truth behind the need. Daybree, I have a really conflictual relationship with my sister. It feels like she's very hateful towards me. I don't know how to resolve it. Daybree, harmony. Daybree, harmony in all of her relationships. That's affirmative prayer. We're affirming the truth that exists. It exists in the realm of spirit, and our desire is to bring it into manifestation into our world right here, and we do that through affirmative prayer. Myrtle Fillmore, Charles's wife and co-founder of the Unity movement. I think we have this on a slide. Here we are. Thank you, Mary Ellen. You are eternally one with your source and creator. So it's a matter of getting still, peaceful, calm, and serene with your thought away for a while from all outer activities and opening the way for the mighty and abundant flow of spirit that vitalizes, invigorates, builds up, and renews every place in mind, heart, soul, and body. That's prayer. That's what prayer does for us. There's no wrong way to pray. There's all sorts of prayers, negotiation, begging, whatever works for you at any given time. Our focus may be on affirmative prayer, but we are also human. Meister Eckhart, 14th century mystic, says if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it is enough. It is enough. No one can tell you how you should pray, how you should connect with your divine. My invitation is that you do, is that you consciously do that. And I don't even mean set time aside. I mean throughout the day, remember to turn within. Say, what am I feeling right now? How can I be most loving in this situation? And listen. And a beautiful example of affirmative prayer is the invocation that we just spoke. Proclamation. Let us say this again together. I am now in the presence of pure being and immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge thy presence and thy power, O blessed Spirit. In thy divine wisdom, now erase my mortal limitations, and from thy pure substance of love, bring into manifestation my world according to thy perfect law. So that language is beautiful. It's also a little stilted. So let's expand this a little bit. maybe to better apply it to our own lives. I'm now in the presence of pure being, God, all knowledge, all that is, divine love. I am now in this. I am immersed in the holy of all holiness, completely merged with all that is. Life, love, and wisdom are deeply rooted within me and emanate outward from me as me. I'm going to repeat that. Love and wisdom are deeply rooted within. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Life. Life. Lots of life. Is that good? Thank you. Life, love, and wisdom are deeply rooted within me and emanate outwards from me as me. Because that is you. Life, love, and wisdom. I acknowledge and honor the divine presence and power active as my life. O blessed Spirit of all that is sacred, now erase any perceived limitations in my mind, all error thoughts of fear and separation, anything less than the awareness of oneness, dust to dust, ashes to ashes. From the pureness of love, the substance of all light and truth, bring into my awareness divine potential as I lay claim to my birthright, as you lay claim to your birthright, your world, according to love's perfect law. This is the space, this is the place where we live and move and have our being. This is what is emerging from us every time we turn within. This divine knowing is emerging from us, and we are cupids, shooting those arrows of light and love at every person we see. I see the divine in you. I see God in you. You're gorgeous. The wisdom within you is awesome. You are brilliant. You are so powerful. Those are the arrows that we shoot into our world. Prayer quiets us. Prayer centers us. Prayer reminds us of our power, reminds us of who we are and whose we are, reminds us of the divine truth of our nature. This week, may your thoughts, your words, and your actions come from this prayerful state of realization, from the divine truths that we know in our mind and we place in our heart. And let us all this week be more discerning archers in our world. God bless you.